So now I just need to finish out my balance sheet and do the owner's equity section. Retained earnings I have in blue because retained earnings are a little bit special in that we don't really know what they are. And so when you're putting these balance sheets together, we're really doing it in a slightly investigative manner, in that we're taking all the pieces of information that you would have available and saying, how can we back into some of these numbers that we may not have available? Retained earnings is one of them, and so we're going to fill in everything else and then come back in and then figure out how to do retained earnings. But once we have retained earnings for a cost basis, it's going to be exactly the same on a market basis, so you can just say equals that amount and copy it over. Contributed capital is the same no matter how we value our assets. We've still contributed money to the business or we haven't, and so equals that number and copy it across. Our personal net worth is the next number to fill out, and personal net worth is the wealth that you have from your personal assets minus your personal liabilities. So that's all the formula is, just equals personal assets minus personal liabilities. Click enter. I can just copy that across and it automatically fills it in. So the next thing to do is our valuation equity. And valuation equity is it comes from have our assets appreciated in value, and so what the value that we're getting in our business because of asset appreciation. And the way that you find this is going to be equals the market value of those assets. And normally you could probably take total assets or non-current assets alone, but minus the cost basis or our book value of those assets. So that difference right there, if I hit enter, that's $430,000. That is how much my assets have appreciated in value. But that is not my wealth increase, because my wealth, if I actually sold them and made that $430,000 gain, I'm going to have to pay taxes. So minus the deferred tax on our non-current assets. And so truly, the amount of wealth we've gained from those assets appreciating value is $276,000. And then we can copy that one over. And so when I do this, just double click it there. And as you come up, you see it's taking the total assets from the end of the year and the deferred tax from the end of the year. Here, with the combined personal and farm, it's just the same number, so equal the other column. Copy that over. So now we've got all of our information in there but the retained earnings. And once we have the retained earnings in there, it's going to fill it in. Now we want to find our total, and so our total, home, so we get our summation sign there. We've got to include those retained earnings, so increase your range, hit enter. Now we can copy that all the way across. And then the next thing we want to do is build in our check. And our check is, we want to take our total liabilities and owner's equity. So plus total liabilities, so in this case it's business liabilities, plus total owner's equity. And as I copy that across, there's going to be a problem over here. Because see, if I double click that, see how that took just our business liabilities, but we really need our total, the personal liabilities too. So it should be referring to F59. So if 57, it should be 59. I can just actually highlight that 7 and hit 9, and it changes it to a 59, and you can see how it changed that there. That's correct now, so I can just copy that across. Now, this diff, or for difference, is not something that's really a balance sheet item. It's just something that I use to do an internal check. And so I know that my assets should equal my liabilities and owner's equity. So assets minus the total here, and it should be a 0. And I'm going to copy that across. The problem is here, once again, we've got referring to 34 instead of 36. So just take that 4, highlight it, make it a 6. And then you'll notice as we come across here for the beginning balance sheets, we're off by 196,000, 196, 196. And so that amount that we're off consistently on all those balance sheets, that is our retained earnings. So I can just look at that number and go ahead and type it in here, 196,448.58. You can either round it up to 196,449 or put in the cents. It's going to round it when it displays it. If you put in the cents, though, this 58, when you go to do your statement of owner's equity, that'll help keep that exactly on. Do the same thing for the end of the year, 216,034.54, and hit enter. And then we have finished our balance sheet. Students have asked in the past why I don't just put a formula in there to do this automatically for me. The problem is that if you're not careful, a lot of times if you try to put a formula in here to say assets minus the liabilities equal the retained earnings here, and then add it up to do it here and here, you'll create a circular reference. And once you have circular reference problems in an Excel file, those are the hardest problems to fix and get rid of. So now you have finished your balance sheet and you've created your workbook up through the balance sheet, and this ends Module 1.